Evan walked through the wide halls of the Galactic Union Training Academy with careful steps. The place was huge, shiny, and full of young recruits from different alien species. Some had silver skin, some had glowing eyes, some floated instead of walking. Evan was the only human, and he always felt every eye turn to him when he passed. Still, he kept his head high. His grandfather had once walked among these stars too. His grandfather, Captain Elias Ward, was known in old stories as a brave explorer who helped save alien worlds many years ago. Evan grew up hearing those stories at home. They made him proud, and they made him believe humans had a place in the galaxy. That morning, the new trainees gathered in the main hall for orientation. Their trainer, an alien named Vorik, stood tall above them. His body was covered in hard scales, and his bright red eyes watched everyone like they were insects. Vorik was strong, respected, and feared. He believed in discipline and power. He also believed humans were weak. Evan felt tense but hopeful. This training could be his chance to prove himself, just like his grandfather did. Vorik began speaking in a cold voice. "Welcome, recruits. In this academy, only the strong rise. The weak break. Remember that." The recruits stayed silent. Evan listened carefully. Vorik continued. "Before we begin, I want each of you to say why you joined the academy. Strength of purpose is as important as strength of body." One by one, the trainees spoke. Some wanted honor. Some wanted to protect their planets. Some wanted to learn battle skills. When it was Evan's turn, he stepped forward. "I joined because of my grandfather," Evan said softly. "He was a human explorer who helped many worlds." Vorik cut him off with a sharp laugh. The hall echoed with it. The other trainees grew quiet. "Your grandfather?" Vorik said loudly. "A human? Saving worlds? Impossible." Evan felt his face heat up, but he continued. "He really did. His name was Elias Ward. Maybe you know." Vorik stepped closer, towering over him. "Humans do not shape history. Humans do not lead wars or end them. Humans barely survive in this galaxy. So do not bring your small stories here." Evan felt the sting of the words. The trainees whispered among themselves. Some looked away. Some stared at Evan with pity. Evan swallowed hard but stood still. "My grandfather helped people," he said quietly. "That is true." Vorik's eyes narrowed. "Then he was a rare human, and you are not him." He turned away, dismissing Evan like a shadow. "Next recruit," he ordered. But the moment did not pass quietly. The whispering grew louder. Some trainees looked at Evan with doubt, as if he had said something foolish. Some looked amused. Evan felt small, smaller than ever before. High above the hall, on a maintenance balcony, an older human leaned against a railing. He wore a simple mechanic uniform, covered in oil marks. His name was Jonas Reed. He worked in the academy fixing machines, cleaning old storage rooms, and making sure everything ran smoothly. He was not a soldier. He was not a trainer. But he saw things others ignored. Jonas had watched the entire scene. He knew the name Elias Ward very well. He had served beside him long ago, and he knew that everything Evan said was true, and much more. Elias Ward had saved lives, solved impossible problems, and changed the galaxy in ways even the Academy tried to forget. Jonas watched Evan stand alone in the crowd. The boy held his ground even after the humiliation. His shoulders were shaking a little, but he did not run. He kept standing, kept breathing, kept trying to hold himself together. Jonas nodded slowly to himself. "That kid has the same fire," he whispered. When training ended for the morning, Evan walked alone toward the dorms. He felt the weight of the room still on him, like a heavy shadow. He wondered if he made a mistake coming here. Maybe Vorik was right. Maybe humans did not belong in places like this. Just then, a quiet voice spoke behind him. "You spoke well today." Evan turned to see Jonas, standing there, wiping his hands with a cloth. The older man had kind eyes and a calm face. "No," Evan said softly. "I embarrassed myself." Jonas shook his head. "Not at all. You spoke the truth, and truth takes courage." Evan looked confused. You knew my grandfather?" Jonas smiled faintly. Yes, more than these aliens ever will. Evan blinked, surprised. Was he real important? He was more than important, Jonas said. He changed everything. And some people don't like remembering that. Evan felt a small spark inside him, something warm against the cold memory of Vorik's words. Jonas put a hand on his shoulder. Don't let anyone take your grandfather's legacy from you. And don't let them tell you what humans can or can't do. We surprised the galaxy before. Evan nodded slowly. For the first time that day, he felt hope again. And unseen by both of them, far down the hall, Vorik watched with narrowed eyes. He did not like what he saw. Not at all. Evan arrived at the training hall early the next morning. He hoped the new day would feel different, but the same cold air hung around him. Some recruits whispered when he walked in. Some stared. Some simply avoided him. Their reactions reminded him of the moment from yesterday, when Vorik had mocked his grandfather and made the whole hall laugh. Evan tried to ignore it. He sat on a bench and waited for training to begin. He pressed his hands together and took a slow breath. He wanted to prove himself, but fear sat heavy in his stomach. Then he saw Jonas, the human mechanic, walking across the edge of the hall. Jonas carried a small toolbox, and his steps were slow but sure. He looked like he had been awake for hours, working on machines before sunrise. When he spotted Evan, he gave a quick nod. Evan felt a little stronger just seeing him. Vorik entered soon after. His heavy feet struck the floor, making a sharp sound with each step. The talking stopped. Everyone turned to face him. We begin combat drills today, Vorik announced. His voice filled the room like a cold wave. Strength is tested through resistance. Weakness is exposed. Evan felt his throat tighten. Vorik continued, pair up. Recruits rushed to find partners, but no one moved toward Evan. He stood there alone while others formed pairs around him. Jonas, up on the maintenance railing, watched quietly. His hands tightened around the railing. Vorik looked around. Everyone has a partner? Evan took a breath and stepped forward. I don't. Vorik's eyes gleamed. Of course, he said softly. Then you will train with me. The room grew even quieter. Evan's heart dropped. Training with Vorik was not normal. Vorik trained recruits only when he wanted to break them. Evan stepped into the center of the room. Vorik stood across from him, tall and powerful. His scales glimmered like metal under the bright lights. Begin, Vorik said. Evan braced himself. Vorik moved fast, not to strike, but to test. He pushed Evan's shoulder lightly, almost mockingly. Evan stumbled but stayed standing. Some recruits laughed quietly. Too slow, Vorik said. Evan tried to focus on his breathing. He raised his arms, tried to remember the basic stance he learned last week. Vorik pushed him again, this time harder. Evan fell back, hitting the floor. The sound echoed. Jonas flinched. Evan got up again, his hands shaking. Vorik circled him like a predator. Your grandfather was strong? Show me. Stand like him. Fight like him. Evan stood straighter. He lifted his arms again. Vorik smirked and knocked him down with a single sweeping movement. Evan's back hit the floor. Pain shot his spine. He clenched his teeth, fighting tears. This wasn't training. This was humiliation. Get up, Vorik ordered. Evan pushed himself up again. His legs trembled. His hands stung. His breath burned. Vorik stepped forward as if preparing for another blow. That was when a sharp voice cut through the hall. That's enough. Everyone turned. Jonas stood at the lower entrance now, having climbed down from a balcony. His simple mechanic uniform looked almost out of place in the training hall, but the fire in his eyes made him stand taller than any soldier there. Vorik raised a brow. You dare interrupt training? Jonas walked toward the center with slow, steady steps. That wasn't training, he said. That was you proving a point. The recruits whispered. No one ever spoke to Vorik like that. Vorik stepped forward. This is none of your concern. Jonas looked up at him without fear. A human boy standing alone in a room full of aliens? Being pushed to the ground over and over? It's my concern. Evan stared at Jonas, surprised and grateful. Vorik's voice dropped colder. He is weak. Then teach him, Jonas said. Don't destroy him. Vork's eyes narrowed. You forget your place, mechanic. Jonas didn't flinch. He stepped beside Evan, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. My place? My place is fixing broken things. He squeezed Evan's shoulder gently. And right now, what's broken isn't him. It's this training. The hall fell silent. Vork looked from Jonas to Evan, then back to Jonas again. He seemed almost confused by the mechanic's boldness. Then he clicked his claws together, annoyed. Take the boy, then, Vork said sharply. If you believe you can build something strong from him. Jonas nodded once. I can. Evan felt warmth rise in his chest. As they walked out of the training hall, Evan looked up at Jonas. Why did you step in? Jonas smiled softly. Because I've seen this before. Your grandfather faced the same thing. He stood alone until someone stepped in for him, too. Jonas paused. Someone has to protect the spark before it becomes a flame. Evan looked forward, his step steadier now. The academy didn't know it yet, but something had changed, and it started with a mechanic who refused to stay silent. Evan followed Jonas through the quiet back corridors of the academy. These halls were rarely used, so the lights flickered and the air felt cold. Jonas walked with purpose, holding a small toolbox in one hand and keeping a steady pace. Evan tried to match him, though his body still felt sore from the rough training. After several turns, Jonas stopped at a metal door with a faded sign that no one could read anymore. It looked old, older than the rest of the building. Jonas placed his hand on a small panel beside it. The panel scanned him, glowed for a moment, then unlocked with a soft click. Evan frowned. How do you have access here? Jonas smiled without answering and pushed the door open. Inside was a small workshop, much smaller than the mechanic stations Evan saw before. This one felt personal. The lights were warm instead of bright. Tools hung neatly on the walls. Strange devices sat half-built on tables. A thick notebook lay open, covered in sketches, wires, and symbols Evan didn't recognize. But the thing that caught Evan's eye was the object sitting in the center of the room. It was a cube, small enough to hold in two hands. But it glowed softly, like a heart beating under the surface. Human-made metal wrapped around alien crystals. It hummed quietly, almost like it was alive. Evan took a small step back. What is that? Jonas closed the door behind them. This is why I came to the academy, he said. It's why I protect kids like you. Evan looked at him, confused. I don't understand. Jonas set down his toolbox and walked the cube. His fingers brushed the surface gently. Humans, we weren't always small in the galaxy. Once, long ago, we were something the other species feared. Not because we were dangerous, but because we figure out things no one else could. He tapped the cube lightly. It responded with a pulse of light. This is human tech. Evan asked, I've never seen anything like it. No one has, Jonas said. Not anymore. Evan felt his heartbeat quicken. He had heard stories from his grandfather. Stories about human inventors, explorers, and warriors who surprised alien empires with ideas no one had ever imagined. Back then, it sounded like old legends. Now he wasn't sure. So why is this hidden? Evan asked quietly. Jonas sat down on a stool and motioned for Evan to sit as well. Because humans lost their place. Wars, politics, fear, all of it pushed us into the shadows. Some species laugh at humans now. Some look down on us. But a few, just a few, remember what we used to be. Evan swallowed. My grandfather, he always told me humans were stronger than the galaxy thought. Jonas smiled. Your grandfather was right. And he wasn't just a soldier, Evan. He was a protector. Evan blinked. Protector? Of what? Jonas turned the cube and pressed a small panel. A hologram appeared above it. A symbol shaped like a circle with 3 lines crossing through the center. Of this, Jonas said softly, the Human Core Network. The room lit up with small points of light. Stars. Parts of the galaxy map appeared in the air. Evan stared at it with wide eyes. This is ours. It was, Jonas said. Humans built a secret network. It stored knowledge, technology, ideas. and only people with protector bloodlines could access it. Evan's breath caught. Protector bloodlines? Jonas looked him straight in the eyes. Your family, Evan. Evan froze. His mind raced back. His grandfather's stories, his strange lessons, the way he was always told to think differently, to solve problems, to observe quietly. Then something else hit him even harder. That alien trainer, Vorik. He hates humans like me because he knows. Evan whispered. Jonas nodded slowly. He knows enough to fear what you could be. Evan felt his hands shake. But why did he say my grandfather was weak? Because a scared person will attack a threat before it grows, Jonas said. Your grandfather was strong, but he hid it to protect you. Now the galaxy thinks humans are harmless. Jonas smiled faintly, which means the galaxy is not ready for a human boy who carries a protector spark. Evan stared at the glowing cube. He felt something awaken inside him. Something warm. Something steady. Something that matched the soft pulse of the device. What do I do now? He asked. Jonas placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. You learn, he said. You grow. And when the time comes, you stand. Not just for yourself. Not just to prove anyone wrong. He tapped the cube again, and its heartbeat like glow grew brighter. You stand for humans, Jonas said, because we're not done yet. Evan nodded slowly. A small fire lit inside his chest. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel small. He felt like part of something ancient, something powerful, something human. The next morning, the academy grounds felt tense, like the air was waiting for something to happen. Students whispered in corners. Trainers walked with stiff shoulders. Everyone had heard what happened the day before, how the human mechanic, Jonas, had stepped in and stopped Vorik, the alien trainer, from hurting Evan again. Vorik did not forget the humiliation. He waited for Evan in the training hall, standing in the middle of the floor like a dark shadow. His armor glowed with sharp red lines, and his jaws were tight. Other students stayed far away from him. Even they knew something dangerous was brewing. Evan walked in slowly. Jonas followed behind him, his steps quiet but steady. The moment Vorik saw them, he smiled, not kindly, but as if he had been waiting for this very moment. So the little human brings his fixer. Vorik growled. Good. I want him to watch. Evan felt his stomach twist, but Jonas stepped forward, calm as always. I'm just here to make sure you behave, Jonas said. Last time you lost control. Vorik slammed his staff against the ground. The sound echoed through the hall like thunder. Humans do not tell me how to train, he shouted. Students flinched. Instructors peeked in from the doors, unsure whether to intervene. Evan looked at Vorik and remembered his grandfather's words. Jonas's workshop and the glowing cube, a protector spark, a human legacy long forgotten. Vorik noticed a change in Evan's eyes. You dare look at me like that? He hissed. You are nothing, boy. Your kind is nothing. Evan took a breath. My grandfather wasn't nothing, he said. And neither am I. The words were simple, but they struck like lightning. Vorik roared and charged forward. Students screamed. Instructors froze. But Evan did not move back. He felt something warm inside him. Steady, strong, familiar. Jonas, behind him, whispered just loud enough for Evan to hear. Trust yourself. Vorik swung his staff with full force. Evan lifted his hands without knowing why. A pulse of light burst from his palms. Not bright or violent, but soft and rippling, like a memory flowing outward. The shockwave hit Vorik. The powerful alien trainer was thrown backward, crashing into the far wall. His staff snapped in half. His armor flickered. Everyone stared in disbelief. Evan stared at his own hands, trembling. Did I do that? Jonas stepped up beside him, smiling. Human core energy. It responds to emotion, to instinct. You accessed it. Vorik struggled to stand. His eyes burned with fury and fear. Impossible, humans cannot. They can, Jonas said sharply. They always could. Vorik lunged again, this time desperate. But Evan didn't panic. The pulse inside him guided him like a quiet voice. He stepped aside just in time. Vorik stumbled forward, off balance. Evan tapped the ground with his foot, and a small wave of light formed beneath Vorik's feet. The alien trainer collapsed again. Gasps filled the hall. Instructors ran in now, but they didn't move to help Vorik. They stared at Evan instead, confused and shocked. Vorik panted on the floor. No human should hold this power, he spat. Evan walked toward him, not with anger, but with a calm he didn't expect to feel. Jonas stood just behind him, silent and proud. You hurt students to feel strong, Evan said softly. You mock humans because you were afraid of what we could be, but I'm not afraid of you anymore. Vorik tried to stand, but his knees shook. Evan didn't touch him. He didn't need to. The truth had already crushed whatever pride Vorik had left. This boy carries protector line, Jonas said to the instructors. He has the right to defend himself. One of the instructors stepped forward, eyes wide. Jonas, is this true? Humans still hold that power. Jonas nodded. Some do. Another instructor looked at Vorik with narrowed eyes. Then this trainer is guilty of attacking a protector heir. The hall fell silent. Vorik's eyes widened. No, I didn't know. Yet you struck him anyway, Jonas said. Evan didn't want revenge. He didn't want anger. He simply wanted the truth to be clear. I don't want him hurt, Evan said. I just want the bullying to stop. The instructors exchanged looks, surprised by the boy's mercy. One of them stepped forward. Vorik, you are relieved of your position. Effective now. Vorik's jaw dropped. You cannot. You disrespected the academy, the students, and a protector, the instructor said firmly. You have broken the code. Vorik tried to speak again, but no words came out. Guards escorted him out as he trembled with anger and shame. Evan watched him go. His hands still tingled from the strange power, but he felt lighter. Jonas placed a hand on his shoulder. You stood strong, Jonas said quietly, not because of power, but because you chose to. Evan nodded slowly. He didn't feel like a hero. He didn't feel like a legend. He just felt like himself. But now he understood something important. Being human wasn't a weakness. Being human was the reason he won. The news of Vorik's fall spread quickly across the academy. Students whispered about it in the halls. Teachers spoke softly behind closed doors, and even the guards exchanged surprised looks. No one had expected a young human boy to defeat one of the strongest alien trainers. No one had expected a simple mechanic to stand beside him like a shield. But the biggest change happened inside Evan. He woke up the next morning feeling lighter. The fear that had followed him for months was gone, like a shadow pushed away by sunlight. When he walked into class, students who once ignored him now stepped out of his way with respect. Some even nodded to him, unsure but curious. Jonas stayed close, watching with a calm smile. He didn't push Evan, didn't rush him. He simply made sure the boy knew he wasn't alone. Later that day, the academy leaders held a meeting. Evan and Jonas were asked to attend. They entered a large circular room where 6 alien elders sat around a glowing table. Their faces were serious, but not unfriendly. The first elder, a tall being with crystal skin, leaned forward. Evan Carter, she said softly, we have reviewed yesterday's event. You acted in self-defense. But more importantly, you showed great control. Evan lowered his eyes, unsure how to respond. The second elder spoke. Your power is rare. Humans once used it to protect worlds during ancient wars. But for centuries, the line was believed lost. Jonas stepped forward. His grandfather carried it, and Evan carries it now. The elders looked from Jonas to Evan, studying them closely. We want to help you train. The third elder said carefully, we want to make sure this power grows safely, not wildly. Evan blinked. You mean I can stay? You can do more than stay, the elder replied. You can learn, and one day you may teach. Those words felt strange in Evan's chest, warm, almost like the pulse he felt inside himself. He nodded slowly. I want to learn, he said. After the meeting, they walked back through the academy halls. Students stared at Evan with wide eyes. Some whispered about his heritage. Others whispered about Vorik and how he had been removed from the academy. Evan stopped when he saw a young alien student standing near a corner. The boy looked nervous and held a book close to his chest. When Evan walked toward him, the boy stepped back. "It's okay," Evan said gently. "I'm not going to hurt you." The alien boy swallowed and nodded. I just wanted to say, thank you. Vork was cruel to many of us, but no one stopped him. Only you did." Evan blinked. He didn't expect such words. "I didn't do it alone," he said. "Jonas helped me." The boy smiled a little. "Still, you showed everyone that humans are not weak." Evan felt something settle inside him. Something calm, steady, like a quiet promise. He realized that maybe his strength wasn't just about energy or power. Maybe it was about standing up, even when he was afraid. Later, Jonas took Evan back to the workshop behind the academy where he was still doing repairs. The room smelled like old metal and warm tools. Jonas sat on a stool and looked at Evan with pride. "You know," Jonas said, "your grandfather would be proud." Evan sat on the floor beside him. "Do you think he knew this would happen?" "Maybe not," Jonas said, "but he believed in humans. He believed in you." Evan picked up a small tool and turned it in his hands. "I don't feel like a hero," he said softly. Jonas smiled. "Good," he replied. "Real heroes never do." That evening, the academy made an announcement. For the first time in its long history, it officially recognized a human as a protector apprentice. Evan's name echoed to the halls, and dozens of students gathered to see him step forward and receive a small silver badge with a glowing center. The badge hummed softly, matching the pulse inside him. As he stood there, surrounded by unfamiliar faces, Evan felt something new. Not fear, not shame, not doubt. He felt belonging. Jonas stood in the back, arms crossed, smiling proudly. He didn't need attention or credit. He just needed to see the boy move forward. When the ceremony ended, Evan walked up to Jonas. "Thank you," he said. Jonas shook his head. "You did this yourself." But Evan knew the truth. It was Jonas who taught him courage, who believed in him when no one else did. It was Jonas who reminded him that being human wasn't a weakness. As they stepped out of the hall together, the stars above the academy shone brighter, as if watching them. The night air was cool and calm. And Evan, for the first time in his life, felt truly strong. Not because of the ancient power in his blood, but because he understood what humans could be. Brave, kind, unbreakable. HFY,